Thanks for joining us on Over My Dead Body, the podcast hosted by Nicola Reeder and Carl Tate that aims to bust those myths about all things funerals and answer the questions you never dared ask. So stick in your earbuds, listen, and then send us your questions for the things we still haven't answered for you. Happy listening. So welcome back to Season 3, Episode 7 of Over My Dead Body. Episode 7, Carl. Can you believe how we are flying through this season?
Crikey, who would have thought it back when we first started that we'd end up here in these amazing numbers. It is really fantastic to be here, definitely.
And nearly a year ago since we first...
when we were talking earlier, and you said it was nearly a year, you think, crikey, it's flown by, hasn't it? It really has. It really has.
So how are you this week, Carl? What have you been up to?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, busy with funerals, unfortunately, but that's just as the way it goes. We've lost some incredible people this week, and it's been a difficult one, but one that we'll look after all of the families and do the right thing, of course.
Yeah, as you always do. As you always do. And what a great episode we had last week with Martin.
Yeah, that was brilliant for me. It really was superb. Having Martin here, just giving us that little bit of a different spin on things with regards to religion, and obviously opening your eyes a little bit, I think. How did you find it?
I really enjoyed it, and I think it was just really refreshing to hear that there are options to personalised services in church, that people don't have to choose between one thing or another, that for those people where faith is really important, they can make their loved one just as important in a service. That was always my worry, is that the person gets lost in the religion, and I think Martin reinforced that they don't.
It doesn't, no, and I think that's a good point as we think about that many years ago, that's basically what would happen. You know, a vicar would come in and tell you what readings you're having, what hymns you're having, and then we would fit in a little bit here and there on the person that's sadly passed. But nowadays, obviously, Church of England has changed quite dramatically, and I think it's all for the good.
With that said, though, we are very conscious that was a representative of the Church of England, and there are numerous other faiths, religions, beliefs, even through to the Jedis. So if there is anybody of a different persuasion who would like to come on the show and just talk about their belief system, about how they manage the rituals around dying, how they prepare funerals, we would love to have you. So please do get in touch if you think you've something to offer the show.
Yeah, definitely. I think that would be lovely to hear from you all. And we've also been looking at our listener stats as well, haven't we, Nicola? And we appreciate that we've got quite a number of followers over in the US. So if there's anybody over there who would like to get in touch and tell us how funerals are done over in the USA, then that would be great as well, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And we promise we won't mention football
or anything political.
Yes.
Definitely not.
Absolutely not. There's no Trump on our show.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, moving swiftly on, we were also conscious it's a little while since we did an episode where we just answered some of your questions, and we've had quite a lot of questions coming in. So, Carl and I are going to stick to that this week, try and fire through some of the things you're asking us. So, Carl, what have we had in from listeners?
So, the first one we can answer is, would there ever be more than one deceased in a hearse at the same time?
Oh, sounds like one for you.
That's one for me. I'll take that one, definitely. Now, a hearse, if you think as you look at the hearse, yes, you would have a coffin on top, which is where you would see through the windscreen as such, and that's it. However, hearses do have a deck underneath. So I don't know if the funeral director opens the back of the hearse, there is a sort of small door. It's a compartment that you can technically fit somebody underneath. There are rollers, and all hearses are different, but some hearses have rollers, and realistically, not many people do go under the deck of a hearse. It's not really the done thing. Some funeral directors do place people underneath it. Let's say, as an example, they were on a funeral, going to a crematorium, and then from the crematorium they were going to a hospital to bring somebody into care. So what they would do is they would use the hearse as their removal vehicle and place that person on a stretcher underneath the deck of the hearse, so no one would go on top uncovered. Which does happen, and it does help, bringing people into care. many years ago, you would have used the hearse to bring people into care, but only one person. So, in answer to the question, yes, there can be two people in a hearse, but it's not often done.
And I think from what you said there, it's sometimes the logistical necessities of this industry mean that that's useful. But even if that was the case, it's always done with the utmost respect and dignity, and your loved one is cared for in exactly the same way as they would be if they were in a private ambulance or any other vehicle.
Yes, I couldn't agree more, Nicola. And it's not to say that it doesn't happen. You know, as we say, it does happen. But where possible, funeral directors do try to use their designated funeral removal vehicles, but sometimes, as you say, it can't be helped. And if we need to bring somebody into care very quickly to, for loved ones to see their family members and things, then that has to be done.
It's not somewhere I can crawl into for a little sleep.
I mean, you probably could. You probably could climb in there. Yes, I don't think I would like to be in there, but yeah.
As you set off, you hear me knocking from the back.
Would raise a few eyebrows, definitely. Yeah. So the next one that we've got, Nicola, is with regards to orders of service. So do we have to have an order of service? And if so, what should go on it?
Order of service sheet.
Order of service sheet, yeah, I believe so. Yeah. So
interesting topic.
So that's a bit of a mixed question, I think, for us, Nicola, because for me, as a funeral director, I would always give families the option to have one and not to have one. And the content isn't my bag. That is up to somebody like yourself or Martin, who was on last week's show. So what do we put in it?
What do we put in it? So it's often when we go to see families as celebrants, sometimes they've got a really clear idea about how they want an order of service sheet to look. They're already saying, we want a page of photographs, or I've done quite a few where we've put like somebody's favourite recipe or a list of the favourite things. Or so sometimes families have a really clear idea of how they want it to look, and they want it to be something that's a keepsake for people after the service, that they can kind of go back and look at. I don't know if people ever would, but that it had some personality. Quite often families say, we just want something really simple. We just want, 4-page, white cover, photograph of our loved one on the front, bit of an agenda in the middle, details of the bun fight on the back. Sorry, not bun fight, wake. On the
refreshments on
the back, which is equally fine. There is no right or wrong. So I think in answer to do you have to have one? Absolutely not. It's one of those things that is down to families. I think what it helps people in the congregation do is follow the structure of the service. They understand if they've got some headings, mine will often be kind of a welcome, then we've got a tribute, then we've got maybe some photographs, then saying farewell or committal, or if we've got prayers. It just helps people to follow the flow, know how much longer they've got left, understand where we're heading towards. It's a bit of a map, really.
Yeah, it is. And it's also good for answering people's questions. So rather than the congregation asking, well, where are we going after?
Yeah.
What are the donations for? Things like that. It's a really good bit of kit that you can use to inform people where they're going, so it stops them asking these questions. And I think going back years, over the years, certainly if you were to have a religious service at a crematorium, they used to, they still do in some crematoriums, have hymn books. The other problem is that they don't have the correct words of the hymns. So it's good to have the words of the hymn, but nowadays with churches evolving as crematoriums have, a lot of them have big screens that fire the words of the hymns up there as well. So
yeah,
it does work as a good bit of information, and also it serves for actually using in the service for the congregation.
Yeah, absolutely. And like everything that we've talked about in terms of funerals, how elaborate or not you want that to be is up to you, whether you want your funeral director to do it. I've done them on behalf of families sometimes when they've maybe just not had as much budget and they've just wanted like a one-page A5 back-to-back. That's a really nice, simple solution. They can do it themselves if they want. You can just print it out on paper at home. There's a whole host of options, and you shouldn't ever feel you have to only accept what your FD offers.
And I agree, Nicola. That's the whole point of doing these podcasts, as we always say, is that there is so many different options available. And also the orders of service, as you mentioned, are keepsakes for some family members. It doesn't necessarily have to have any words in it. It can literally just be a picture book. On the front, yes, details of the service, but inside, let's just have a lot of photos, if you like, and no words. We don't need words, and that's keeping it going a little bit different. And it can be designed. There's no set format. Yes, it's A5. Well, actually, I'm saying that. Yes, it's A5. Historically, yes, it is, and traditionally is A5. However, you can do A4 booklets, which do look very good. It almost becomes like a program at the theatre. And to me, we don't do many of them, but the ones that I've been involved in, they do look pretty spectacular, I must admit.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've done match day programs, we've done kind of album cover designs where it's like the square size of like an album, a record cover. So there really is, no limit to what you're able to do, should you want to. And one of the most worrying things that families say is, oh my God, do we have to come up with what goes inside? The answer is no. You're officiant, whether it's minister, whether it's a celebrant, we will always come up with that and either let yourselves have it if you're doing it yourself, or your FD have it, or whoever needs to have it. But don't worry about thinking, oh my God, what goes in the middle. That's our job.
Yeah, definitely. And it's great for families, ministers and funeral directors to work together, because ultimately that's where the best ideas come from. If someone fires an idea, actually, could we do it this way? And then you think, right, yeah, let's have a go, let's design something. And ultimately it's the family's choice and decision. So if they like it, great. If they don't, we scrap it and we start again. We literally go right back to the beginning and start again. And I think that's something that families need to be made aware of, is that if they want a particular font or a particular size font or anything at all, it can be done. And that's something that they do need to know.
Absolutely. And if you don't like the wording that your officiant has put in the middle, so I tend to be quite informal in my wording, so things like the story of somebody's life, or saying farewell rather than committal or commendation, so it tends to be a bit more informal. But if you don't like it, we'll never be offended if you say, can we just put this in a different way? That doesn't really feel like Dad. He was a bit more traditional. Can we go back to that? Do you know, that's absolutely fine. Just let us know what you want.
Yeah, and I think when ministers and celebrants send, as a funeral director, when they send me things, so I personally, again, this is just a personal note, is opening music and closing music rather than entrance music and exit music.
Yeah.
So I would, unfortunately, I do change it. People probably know this. So if someone puts in entry music or entrance music, I'll put opening music and closing. But I've had it before where celebrants and ministers have said, that's not right, can you follow my order of service? Again, that's perfectly fine, I'll change it back. It's just sometimes I think where the way it looks and flows, I obviously just change it. But that's not the case that I'm always right. And as I say, if the families don't like it and they prefer something else, then that's perfectly fine as well. You'll be looking out for that now, aren't you?
Well, I'm trying to remember what I tend to put on mine, and sometimes it depends how I'll kind of word the first bit of the service. But the other thing that's really interesting working with different funeral directors is whether they put the celebrant's name on, whether they put, I've had Mrs. Nicola Reader at some points, I've had just Nicola at some points, and if I had the choice, my name wouldn't go on the order of service at all. I don't think it needs to. I am the least important person in the room on that day, so I'm absolutely not precious and would be very happy for my name to be left off. But I know people like to know who's done the service, and just maybe for future reference, although tend to remember the pink hair rather than reading my name most of the time.
Yeah, it's a point well made, and I know that certain funeral directors on the back will put their company logo, or they'll put the full address and full telephone number, and it almost becomes a free advertising book as such, which I get in some cases. Where I sit is the opposite. I'd rather there wasn't any of that on there, because people usually come to us for a reason, and we don't really need the sort of advertising.
Absolutely.
And I know that certain ministers, religious ministers, let's say, who prefer the whole shebang. So they would like the service conducted by, so whoever that is. Then they'd like the organist's name in there. The organist. Potentially, sometimes we've had the verger's names in there. And also, there's a particular few that I've looked after. We've had like a bagpiper, so we put the piper's name in. I mean, the piper sometimes is quite good because that's an irregularity. It never really happens. So we put the piper's name in, and then also the funeral director. So again, it's a bit of give and take, really.
Yeah,
absolutely. So also, you've got to be careful that families are paying extra for the more pages you add.
Yeah.
The families pay more in every, unfortunately.
So, which is a good point.
So if you have more pages and more names, then
it's more print.
More print money and cost to the families.
And families will say, "Oh, can we just add another page?" But because if you think of how an order of service lies, you've got to add in 4 pages.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. You can't just add in another one page.
No.
It's got to be in multiples of 4. So you're 4, 8, 12, 16.
Well, yes. And no, so there are some printing companies who will do you it's almost like a 6-page order of service,
right.
which sounds a bit weird, or a 3-page. It's sort of folded into 3, as you would fold an A4 letter. Into like a concertina. They do it that way. There are certain ways around it, but it's. Again, it changes the look because it doesn't become A5 or A4. It's sort of a concertina shape. So it is, again, so many different options.
So even that little piece of paper that everybody gets at the start of the service has an awful lot of questions around.
Yeah, and there's so much to put into it because you're only really going to, if it's for your mum or dad, you only have one mum and one dad, and you're only going to do this once. So it's got to be right, and it's not just a case of throwing something together or just do. So we've had in the past where families will say, "Oh, just do what you like." So that's not how it works. Let me put something together. If you like it, great, and then it's a benchmark, and then they'll say, "Actually, no, we're thinking of this. No problem. Let's go with that."
Absolutely. And my one tip on order of service sheets, sometimes I've been asked by families if we can reproduce the whole tributes that they're reading out for their loved one. And actually people can't read and listen at the same time, and you're losing the power of it being delivered either by yourself or by your officiant really well, by somebody trying to read alongside. That somebody should be articulate enough, certainly if they're a professional, to be able to deliver that so people can hear every word. They don't need to read it to understand it, and it just kind of confuses things and makes your order of service very big. So my tip would be don't put your tributes in, just let people listen.
I would agree. So the next question that we've got that's come in is, what do I do if I want to donate my body to medical science?
Oh, good question.
Crikey.
I do not know the answer.
So many years ago, medical science would accept absolutely anybody. So you could donate your body and you could be sent away and for medical science. However, nowadays they're a little bit more fussy. And they don't accept everybody, which is a bit bizarre. You can, there are medical students, but because there are so many people wanting to do it, they certainly they've not run out of room as such, but they have enough. They're at capacity that they have all of the bodies they need, really, which is bizarre. And there was a point where people were doing it to try and cut costs as well. So donate my body to medical science. There's no funeral, there's no cost, and again, so that's become a popular thing, and they're at capacity. So there are some places that, of course, would accept you have a very rare condition, things like brain tumours and so on, as I alluded to before. So you can do it, but there's a lot of research as well. So it can't just be done on people's deathbeds, as they say. I'd forget about the funeral, just donate my body to medical science.
So you'd have to have planned it well in advance, had the conversations, been accepted.
There's forms, there's so many different things that you need to have done and applied and met the criteria. So it isn't just a case of, just pack me off to Newcastle Hospital. It doesn't work like that.
And if you're relatively healthy and don't have any of those conditions, they're not that interested in.
There's a good chance, I think. I mean, I'd be more than happy for someone to come on and tell us more if they know more. But that's my sort of general understanding of it.
Interesting. Now, did you get paid for donating your body to science?
No, I don't think you do.
No.
I mean, again, I could be wrong, but
you probably have to pay to get.
Well, I think it's usually the funeral directors who would take them. And certainly, I've been involved in. Certainly the brain side of things, where you have, and that's another thing, is that you only have a certain window to get people from place to place. So from point of death to them receiving the body and the brain, there's a certain window of, I can't remember how many hours, something like 72 hours or something like that, because after that time the brain is no good, or the particular organs thereafter don't work. So there you are.
Learn something every week.
You do.
So what else have we got?
Okay. I can ask all these questions, can't I?
You're doing most of the talking this week, which is brilliant.
I've got it. So, are prepaid funerals worth it? And how long do you need to pay in? And is it worthwhile money? I think. Well,
I am looking at you for this.
I'll just take this one. Prepaid funeral plans are very good in certain aspects. So if somebody is is terminally ill and is going to sort of die within the year, then there's probably not much point to it. However, that's not to say that you can't do it, but it's the savings are for the length of time the funeral plan is in place. So if you take a plan out in your 30s and you live till your 70s or 80s, then that's the saving there, because the funeral director fees are set at today's prices, and even though they increase every year, yours don't, because it's a fixed and locked-in price. However, the disbursements will always change, and they're not fixed. Yeah, so in general, you would look at crematorium prices. So as an example, the crematorium could charge £1,200 today, and the following year, they could charge £1,300. So you would have paid £1,200, and there is a shortfall of that £100, which obviously potentially needs to be made up out of the estate or by the next of kin. But also, funeral plans over the years do increase with sort of almost like interest, but it's not interest as such, but they do creep up. The pot does increase. So it's always worthwhile looking into them. They are very good financially, but it also is great for getting people's wishes as well. So it's not just the financial aspect. It's literally doing what we're doing and talking about funerals and laying down your wishes and having them followed to the letter.
And I think we've talked about it before. We might look at doing a finance specific one, because there's lots of questions around costs and it would, like with anything in funerals, go and talk to your independent funeral director. Everybody's circumstances will be different. What you want for your final wishes, what you have available to put into a plan, how long you've potentially got left in your life, that will all create a different answer for it. There isn't one set answer, so just go and talk to your independent funeral director and they'll help guide you through that process.
They will indeed. And of course there are finance options available, so you can take funeral plans out over a certain amount of years to help with the cost of things. And it is financially sound. The funeral planning industry has gone through a huge overhaul recently. So the FCA and the CMA are all involved, and funeral plans are all, as they should be, properly guaranteed now, rather than, somebody just setting up down the road and saying, yes, I'm offering funeral plans, and then potentially going bust and losing all the money. So
because I think that's the big fear for people is, I'm putting all of this in, how do I definitely know it's safe? And it's and I think historically those worries were valid, but not so much now because of all the regulation.
That's it. Not so much today, because there are, as I say, the government got involved and all of the big companies to make sure that funeral plans don't go bust, basically, and are looked after. If anything was to happen, the government will step in to cover the plans that people have, because there was an instance where that did happen and a lot of people lost a lot of money.
But can I be a bit of a hard-hearted capitalist here? And just to say, we hear this phrase funeral poverty all the time, and why do funerals cost so much? And hopefully through the podcast we have talked about how much value funeral directors, celebrants, everybody involved in the care of your loved one kind of adds into making sure that we get it right for you. But most people have a long time to be able to save up and plan for a funeral. We're all going to die, it's coming to all of us, and it just feels like quite a sensible thing to do, to be sure that you have the means to pay for that, whether that's through a plan, whether it's through your savings, whether it's through putting somebody aside in a funeral account that your family have access to. But it is just that one thing that we've all had. Death shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone, and actually we all have an opportunity over our lifetime to make some kind of provision.
Yeah, definitely.
At different levels, I understand that, and times are tough and everybody's struggling to get through at the moment. I get that. But equally, as a country, we cannot afford to pay for everybody's funeral. It's unrealistic. It's never going to happen. But it is something you can take hold of and try and give yourself the best chance of your family not having to find the money for it.
Yeah, well said, Nicola.
Sorry, thank you.
Okay, so we've obviously getting through quite a few questions, which is brilliant, and there's a couple more. There was one that was asked to me. I don't know if you've been asked this, Nicola, but what's the one funeral tradition you'd happily scrap? Now, it's quite a big one, that. But for me, there isn't anything. I wouldn't scrap anything at all, genuinely, hand on heart. And I think that's because that's families' options. There's no scrapping of anything, I don't think. Unfortunately, things are what we'd say dying out. Things like organists. There are organists in the country, and they are very good, but they are few and far between, and it is hard to find. A lot of churches don't have a resident organist, so it is a dying trade.
So, not advocating scrapping organists, just saying it's harder to come by.
It's hard to find them, definitely. Yeah.
Do you know, if I could change one thing, it would be more of a habit than a tradition. We've talked about it so many times on the show. It's people coming in and sitting on the back row and faffing at the start of funeral.
No faffing at funeral.
It just takes us so much time, and I think trying to get that message across to people that you as a congregation think you're being really respectful and not intruding on anybody's grief and hanging back because you don't want to be seen to be kind of taking up a place of a rightful member of the family, but actually the family will have gone in first. They'll be sitting on the front row and they are sitting there, and it's excruciating for them. They just want to get started. They just want to get on and get out the crematorium as quickly as possible, most of the time. So the longer you take faffing about to sit down, the longer you are prolonging that family's agony. So if there's one habit, we all do it, that I could change, it's please just go in, fill up from the front, fill every single empty seat, don't go halfway down an aisle, sit in the 2 seats in the middle, and then people have to go past you to get to spare seats. Please just take your seats as quickly as you can. You can say hello to people afterwards. If we've put order of service sheets down, sit where there's an order of service sheet. Don't sit down, get up to go get a sheet and go back to a seat that didn't have.
Yeah, I mean that's a very good answer to the question, Nicola. No, I would agree with it. It is one of these things. It is a bit of a pet hate, isn't it? That people just, and look, people are free to sit where they wish. However, when it's a small congregation and people are dotted here, there and everywhere, the family actually would prefer you to be with them, because you're all there for that purpose of celebrating the loved one's life, and it can be quite difficult.
Yeah,
definitely. Okay, so we are rattling through these. So there's the last question of the evening, I think, is: have you ever secretly thought that's a terrible idea?
What, when somebody suggested something for a funeral?
When someone suggested something to you, that's a bad idea, we can't do that, or we shouldn't do that.
That's putting me on the spot, Carl. Have I ever thought a family suggestion was a terrible idea? I think some suggestions I have thought are unworkable or disrespectful, but I haven't. So for those reasons, I've thought we shouldn't do this, rather than that's just stupid, or that's. So I think if you get I'm trying to think of an example now, but we want everyone to come in and cartwheel down the aisle before they take their seat because she was a gymnast. It's like, that's great and it's lovely and it's personal, but unless we book a double slot, have we got insurance for the people that are going to break their arms? Have we warned people not to wear a dress because they're going to show the knickers? All that kind of.
There's a lot.
Oh my God, there's a lot. Yeah. So difficult to manage. Yeah, and I've got quite a good game face over the years. Right.
I would agree. I mean, it's not something I would ever say that's a terrible idea. I would just say, well, okay, let's work through this. Let's look at the logistics of the idea. How are we going to pull it off? Basically, what's going to happen? But I would never say we would never do anything. Everything's always. The majority of things are always achievable. I would suggest.
There are some things that are a bit cliched that we get sometimes, like, can we break into the middle of the eulogy with like a pretend knocking as though our loved one's kind of still alive, and you're kind of like, yeah, we can, but it's a bit obvious and a bit forced, and unless that was his humour.
Yeah, that's it.
If it fits into who he was as the prankster, the joker, and everybody would, if you're absolutely sure everyone's going to laugh at it.
Do it, yeah. No, I agree.
A 2-hour graveside ceremony, that's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, the graveside services, we try to keep them not as short as possible, but obviously living in the country we do, the weather is the biggest factor in that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I have been fairly diplomatic on that one.
You have. I'm impressed. Yeah, very impressed.
I perhaps ring you and go, we want to do this. How are we going to make that happen? And then you and I go, yes, amazing. This is a brilliant one here.
This is how we're going to do it. Yeah, definitely.
What a fab episode. Brilliant episode. Thank you so much for your questions, whether you send them in to us via text, whether you drop them into a conversation with Carl or I when you see us via social media. I still can't believe there are things we haven't answered that people are interested in.
Well, yeah, it just goes to show you that there are so many aspects in funerals that people are intrigued about, and I welcome all of the comments and questions, definitely.
Fabulous. So that wraps it up pretty much for this week, for episode 7. We've only got 3 more to go until we get to the end of season 3.
Wow, crikey.
And then that'll be 30 episodes. We're sailing towards 6,000 downloads. We've got 2,000 followers on Facebook. So thank you to all of you for sticking with us and listening. Carl and I will be heading off on holidays. We actually get a break over the next few weeks, but we have a few more episodes to squeeze in before then. So next week we are hopefully going to be chatting to somebody we met at the National Funeral Exhibition around grieving and how we help people navigate grief, how you help yourself navigate grief. So that should be a really interesting and helpful, a little bit more serious episode, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great episode. I think it'll help a lot of families and a lot of individuals, definitely. And also to keep an eye out on socials and our new TikTok account.
My word!
How do you not forget that, Nicole? Come on.
This is where we admit we really don't know what we're doing on TikTok. So please forgive us if we're terrible. It's Over My Dead Poddy on TikTok, of course. So please go and have a look, share it with people. We're going to try and keep it to like 60-second videos, just answering some questions, taking you behind the scenes of what we do every day at work, those sorts of things. But if we're terrible, forgive us. And if there's any kids out there who know, or anybody who knows what they're doing, or anybody who would like to give us some free social media advice and support, we don't really know what we're doing. So please do. We're very good at funerals, very poor at social media. So please come and help us if you can. So Carl, what have you got on for the rest of the week? Is it a busy one?
Yes, unfortunately it's a very busy week for me with funerals. A lot going on. A little bit quieter on the socials, which is good. So yeah, we're all good. So just preparing for our holiday next week. So yeah, really looking forward to a bit of leave and having a bit of downtime. Yourself?
Same, I have a lot of writing at the moment, so writing and family meetings ready for services coming up over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, same as you, just kind of keeping in touch with families and keeping things going. So have a brilliant week, everybody. You know where we are if you need us. Look after yourselves, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening, and we really hope you enjoyed and were inspired by this week's episode. Remember that you can get in touch with us anytime to ask a question, offer to be a guest, or to request that we bust a particular myth. You can get in touch via any of our social accounts over My Dead Poddy on Facebook, Insta, or TikTok. Or you can drop us an email at overmydeadpoddy@gmail.com. Just a reminder that whilst all of us work in the funeral industry, none of us are fully qualified grief counsellors. And therefore, if you've been affected by any of the issues that we've discussed today, we highly recommend that you seek out professional or medical support to help you with those conversations. Should you need any support, please do get in touch and we can hopefully signpost you in the right direction, but we can't offer those services ourselves. Thanks for listening, and we can't wait to bring you the next episode.